Okay, welcome to one part of the pregnancy seminar series called Being Better Than Your Fear. Ooh. Yes, it's about fear. Where before we did the balancing your hormones and saw that that was an innate system, and I mentioned also before about specific skills being modules of different neurological influences that we could use in various combinations or forms. This workshop really isn't either, but it could be both. This is a process that was first exposed to me by my father. I don't know if you know this, but my father is a hand analysis person, a chirologist. And at one stage he was concerned that people weren't paying attention to his credentials. So he went off and got a psychology degree. And in the process of doing that, he integrated a lot of what he already knew of psychology from the hand into his psychology qualifications. One of the things that he did was to experiment with fear. And in the process of working with fear, he developed some very interesting ways of helping people to basically be free from the influence of fear. The technique that I'm going to show you comes from him. I've amplified it and changed it a little bit to make it more suitable for what we do. But basically, it comes from his original research. This is this is going to challenge a lot of the things that you think you believe about yourself, about life, about fear, about people, because it's not just a technique. This is going to activate a whole series of associated events in your subconscious and will change all of them very, very quickly. How it does that, or to know how it does that, we need to understand a bit more about fear and what it is. Really, we have two different types of fear. We have a type of fear that is a genetically based self-preservation part of our neurology. In other words, there's a part of our brain that's always trying to protect us. So we could be walking down the path and we see something curled up on the ground, and before we know it, we've jumped out of the way. And then we look back and we see it was just a piece of wood. But what made us jump out of the way was that part of our nervous system that says, oh, that could be a snake. The reptilian part holds a certain type of fear. It's the basic type of fear. It's built into your genetic system, which also means it's inherited. Right? So anything that has happened that influenced your ancestors on a fear basis is inherited and lives in the reptilian part of your brain. It's a non-thinking part. Right? You don't have to think about what's going on. You just have to react to get out of the way. You don't stop to try to talk about the better options when a snake is chasing you and wants to bite you. You don't talk to a dinosaur about changing his mind about eating you. It's not necessary. So it's also not necessary to discuss the taxation, the letter from the tax office that you just got. Because it's not going to go away. Whether you like it or not, you're being taxed, but that part of you that feels threatened by that is reacting from a brain stem level. That's a very, very basic, fundamental reaction. And it has nothing to do, or doesn't have to have anything to do, with the higher areas in your brain. The second type of fear is related to the higher parts of the brain, and this is related to everything that has happened to you in your life. All of the circumstances, experiences, events, things that happened to you in your life that you had no say in, things that made you change, are often seen as a threat. Well, because it's a threat, and in fact anything that's seen by your subconscious to be a threat can activate that primal brainstem response. So you have a perceived threat and you have the primal reaction to that perceived threat. So we can develop fears to anything. So we could have a fear of pink orchids. We could have a fear of cameras. We could have a fear of birds. We could have a fear of people. We can have a fear of anything because we create the concept first and then it becomes attached to that primal brainstem fear and then it's real. We will physically do something to get away from that fear. But there's an interesting facet or attachment to fear. And that is we have justifications for them. We justify having them. Which is a really strange thing because a person will say every time that they don't want to have a fear. But then they'll give you all the reasons as to why it's there, and in a sense they're convincing themselves that it will always stay there. We tend to believe in society that we should have fear. You know, I held a very interesting discussion with a woman in Germany some years ago because I said, I wonder what your life would be like if you had no fear. And she said, oh, but you have to have fear. I said, and why? She said, because, you know, if you don't have fear, you might walk in front of a bus. So I said, well, what things other than fear could you use to stop yourself from walking in front of a bus? Is there anything else that you might be able to do to stop walking in front of a bus? She said, nope. I said, okay. So that means that if you had no fear, you would walk in front of a bus. Oh, no. Well, then what would stop you from walking in front of the bus? And somebody very politely said, common sense. It's called intelligence, actually using your brain for a change and keeping the change. So what happened? She says, no, I don't agree with that. I said, okay, here is an apple. All right. Now, if you ate the apple, what would happen to the apple? She said, well, it would get digested. And then what? She said, then it would come out the other end, right? Yeah. Well, if it came out the other end, would it still look like an apple? She said, oh, no. It would be changed, right? She said, yeah. Well, that's what happens with fear. You have to destroy the model, the mould that you put the energy into, called fear. When the model is destroyed, the energy is released. With the release of the energy, you can use it for other things. So if you don't have fear, what do you have? More energy for a start. Also, fear opposes intellect. It's the direct opposite of your intelligence. So I'll give you an example. This is a great example. We had a facilitator working in the clinic and she was a really big woman. I mean, she was really big. And she had a fear of spiders. So one morning I came into the clinic and she's sitting in a seat and she's white, absolutely petrified. And she's going, the spiders. So I go into her room and the roof of her clinic, nowhere else in the whole clinic, right? And there's 6 rooms in this place. Only in her room there was hundreds of little baby spiders. Hundreds of them. I thought, oh boy. Okay, so I got the vacuum cleaner, sucked them all up, threw them out, and said, okay, they're all gone, all clear. So she went back in and oh, then it was okay. But whenever there was a spider in the clinic, it was always in her room. Always. Said, okay, we need to balance you to spiders. All right? Get rid of this phobia. She said, okay, that's good. Okay. So we had this opportunity to do the balance. So we did the balance, and the challenge to the balance was she had to touch a spider. So I went out into the garden, found a spider, put it in a little glass container, and she had to touch it. But she couldn't. Right? She would put her finger near the spider and something would pull her finger back. She just couldn't touch it. So accidentally I moved the glass and she touched something, and she thought, of course, it was the spider. And she went crazy. She started running around the room. Now, you've got to imagine this. She's a big girl, right? And she's running around like 100 miles an hour, right? And she's taking her clothes off. Her girlfriend was in the room. She was learning neurotraining at the time, so she was sitting in the class, and she was in the room, and she was watching her friend running around. She's going, oh wow, oh wow, oh wow. It was an amazing sight. I realised that she thought the spider had run up onto her, and she was trying to get all her clothes off to get the spider away. So I said to her, the spider's still here. It's not on you. You know, it's still here. It's okay. Now, when she started to move, I grabbed that information so that we can work on her phobia, and then we balanced her, and then she had no spiders occurring in her room. In fact, we never had a problem with spiders in the whole place ever again. But think about that. Here's a fully grown, probably extra grown woman running away from a perceived little spider. I mean, it was literally this big. She actually didn't touch it, but she thought she did. The thought set off a chain reaction of events that took all of the energy out of her mind and put everything straight back into her reptilian brain. The reptilian brain took over. She was running around, and afterwards she said, oh, I didn't realise what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing, because the higher parts of her brain were disconnected from what she was doing. She was doing primal fear reaction. We call it a phobia. My definition of a phobia is a fear that you have no control over. But we have control over most of our fears. Even if we experience them, we still control them. Because if we don't have the control, we really will physically do some very strange things. So fear is actually in direct opposition to intellect. The energy that we put into fear, because fear is an over-energy state, it's what they call a yang condition, too much energy in one place. And as a consequence, when we try to use our energy for something else, when we have a fear response, we have no energy to do that anymore, because it's gone into the fear. The only other place the energy goes is into controlling the fear. So when we lose control, now the fear has the reptilian part of our brain to drive all sorts of responses, and we literally go crazy. It's a type of craziness. And you'll find that most insanity is actually driven by fear. So if you have people with so-called psychological problems, then have a look at the fears. You know, you'll be able to use this technique with them. You'll find some remarkable things going on in the misperceptions that they hold in their brain. One of the students said to me, what's the definition of fear? What does it mean? And I looked it up on the internet, and I found a really nice definition. F-E-A-R, this works in English really well, I don't know about Spanish. False evidence appearing real. False evidence means we have a perception of something that we think is real, but it's not real. We've made it up. And so it appears to be real to us. And we might have lots of good reasons as to why that should be, but they're all wrong because we can change the perception. As soon as we change the perception, we change the evidence that we're using to maintain the fear. Another student said, well, I've got a different definition. I said, really, what's that? She said, F-E-A-R, fuck everything and run. I think that was more a description rather than a definition. But it was a very interesting response because, in fact, she only ever said that in the workshop. That's all she ever said. The rest of the time, nothing. But when she did say something, she made everybody laugh. It was really good. False evidence appearing real. Another interesting facet about fear is that it's always attached to a need. Now, if you ask somebody what they're afraid of, they'll say, snakes, spiders, my mother-in-law. You know, they'll think of something outside of themselves that they don't like, right? And because they don't like it, they're going to turn that into a fear. But that's not what drives people. What drives people is actually what is behind why they set up goals, why they get the job that they get, why they eat the food that they eat, why they pick the clothes that they pick, why they marry the people that they marry. All of these things have fears motivating the actions. So when we're talking about pregnancy, you have a really, really good opportunity to deal with a lot, if not all, of these fears. Because pregnant women, as opposed to pregnant men, will start first by having a fear of not being able to get pregnant. So many clients have said, oh, but I'm afraid I won't be able to have babies. And others are afraid that they will have babies. I think, well, hang on, which way do we go? So some have fear that they will, some have fear that they won't. Then they get pregnant. Then they're afraid that they won't be able to maintain a pregnancy. They're afraid that they will have problems with the pregnancy. They're afraid that they won't be a good mother. They're afraid of everything. Now that fear, as we saw from the hormone workshop, that fear triggers stress-related hormones that is going to alter the chemistry of how that person maintains the pregnancy. It can't not. Right? That pregnancy will be changed chemically. So because of that, we have to make sure that particularly pregnant women have the ability to eliminate fear. Now, you cannot eliminate the neurological part of the fear in the reptilian brain. That's always going to be there. But what you can change is the higher level responses to fear, because you don't want to get rid of the reptilian one. It's there because if there is a snake, you want to be able to get out of the way fast enough to save yourself. In the process of going through life and having the experiences we do, we build a lot of these higher level fears. Now, I'm going to show you a way of actually eliminating them so that they cannot have any effect. The other problem, of course, is that while a person has fear, they are not able to experience the other emotions that they really want to experience because the fear suppresses that. So once the fear is eliminated and completely out of the way, then the person is better able to actually experience the emotions that they want. Wouldn't that be nice? Yes. So there's a very interesting, very easy and very tricky way of finding the real fears. You don't ask people what they're afraid of because they'll tell you something conscious. And most of the fears that dominate you and what you do in your life are not conscious. They're deep in your subconscious. They motivate you to do things behind your conscious awareness. So, how do you find them? How you find them is actually pretty easy. And we're going to go through that process now of how you find those fears. And they're all based on needs. You find out what the person needs. So, let's have a look. If we go to the start of the modules on page 10, you'll see module 1 is the needs. Now, these modules really need to be followed in this order. Now, you'll see that you have the module and the contents of the module listed. Then, at the bottom of that, you have a little thing of what to watch for. So, what I'm going to do is go through the contents of the modules in this order first. Then I'm going to go back to cover what to look for so you can get a better understanding of why that's there. Then after that, I'll get a Stephania or someone to come and give you a demonstration of how to do this. So the first module has 2 sections, 1.1, 1.2. That's pretty easy. You make a list of all your needs. Just what you need as a person to help you to achieve the things that you want to achieve, you know, with health, with work, with family, anything. Just make a list of the things that you need. And this is a really good exercise for you to be paying attention to. Have a little diary with you so that you can write down a need that you might think of. Because, you know, they're memory dependent. And as you remember different things, you'll recognise different needs and you can put them on your needs list. It's the preparation for you to be able to find and access the fear structure that exists in your subconscious. We don't just have fears, they're all attached. And I'll explain that a little bit more as we go on. So, the first thing to do is to write down all of your needs. You need sensations, you need light, you need food, you need water, you need people, you need house, you need lots of things. But not everybody has the same fear behind those needs. And I'll show you how to get to that. 1.2, if you're working with a specific goal, list all the things you need to achieve your goal. Now, I use this as a part of a business model, part of a goal processing, where I get people to make their goals. They write down their goals, and the first thing I do is ask them what do they need to achieve the goal. And they write a list of all sorts of things. Right? That's good. That's what they think they need. Right? But as you see, as we go through, they're the very things that are going to stop them from achieving that goal. Let's have a look why. Second module. What are you afraid of if you can't have the need? What are you afraid of? So, say you have a goal of buying a new car, and your need is to be able to borrow the money from the bank. What are you afraid of if you can't borrow the money from the bank? And the person will give you an answer. Hopefully, if they haven't collapsed on the floor. So you ask this question for each of the needs that you have written. Now, if you've got 25,000 needs, 25 needs, right? You're going to have to ask yourself this question for each one of these needs, because each of those, what are you afraid of if you don't have this one, this one, this one, this one? There's 25 fears there, maybe more, as you'll see later. 2.2, you list all the fears that come up that if you can't have that need. All right, so you just ask yourself the question and you write down the answers. Module 3, you create the perception of the fear. This is really, really important because most people practice avoiding their fear. They don't know what it is. They know it's there, they know the effect of it, but they don't know what it is. They have a subconscious perception that they never become aware of consciously. So this is an opportunity to make a conscious connection to your subconscious fears and be able then to take a step further in eliminating them. And you can eliminate them. So the energy for the fear is then yours to do what you want with. So you give the fear, and we'll just take the first need. I need to buy a new car. What am I afraid of? I'm afraid, what I need is borrowing the money. What I'm afraid of not getting the money is the car that I've got will become dangerous and I'll be in a car accident. So that's the fear, okay? So in this one, we create the perception of the fear, give the fear a colour. So if that fear that my old car will become dangerous had a colour, what colour would it be? It's sort of a reddy orange colour. All right. Just imagine what the colours would be. 3.2, where is the fear inside me? Well, I feel that sort of over here. That's a bit reddy orangey is in this place. What shape does the fear have? Give it a form. Right? Is it three-dimensional? Is it two-dimensional? Is it sharp, smooth, heavy, light? But give it some tangible details. Right? So now you're creating a reality of that fear. You're adding perceptions that you are now becoming consciously aware of. Whether they're real or not is irrelevant because the fears are not real anyway. How you've created the fears is through a misperception process. So we're using a reperception process to change it and get in control of what we've been doing. There are other things that you can do to personalise it. You can give it a mouth and talk to it. All right. You can put a hand on the fear and then see who put it there. So you can find out where the fears come from if that's a necessary part of the process. So 3.4, you take now this form, this new reality, and you put it outside of yourself so you can see it outside you. That's called disassociation, or some people call it dissociation. It means becoming disconnected to something, right? And we need to be disconnected to the fear to be able to destroy it. While it's still inside, people are not going to destroy it. Remember, like eating the apple, right? You have to destroy the apple to change its form to get the energy. It's exactly the same with the fear. But the destruction process now is not an internal process. We destroy it perceptually, and we need to be dissociated from that perception to be able to do that and not have any excuses as to not destroying it properly. The excuses are, stop with this process. There's no more excuses. So module 4 is the destruction of the fear. Do whatever you have to do in your mind to destroy the fear. So here it is. I have this square reddish fear sitting out here. Now, in my mind, I have to work out how to destroy that. Right? And, well, okay, what would destroy that big square fear? An atomic bomb, that would do it. Oh, yeah. It's gone. And in myself, I have the feeling, the reality, the knowing that it's destroyed. It's gone. Finished. So often I'll ask a person at this point, can it come back? Because if it can come back, you haven't destroyed it. All right? And there are lots of different ways of destroying these things. You can do it with the obvious thing like an atomic bomb. That often works pretty well, and with my fears it does anyway. One of the facilitators we have in France has a giant atomic furnace. There's this huge fire contraption that has atomic bombs going off inside of it, and she calls it her fear destroyer. She's a Sylvian. So she opens up the thing and she puts all her fears in, it closes it, sets it up to high, presses the go button, and destroys them all, totally. It works too, I've tried it. It's very good. All right, so it's all done in your imagination. Now, one of the things that you can do to help the process here is to hold the front of your head and the back of your head. Why? I'm glad I asked that question. Because when you are dealing with fears, what's going to happen is fear reactions. Fear reactions are adrenal-based responses. Your adrenal system is going to make the blood leave your head and go into your body. Because that's the reptilian part working. That's saying, let's get ready to run away or to fight this thing. Well, you can't run away from a letter from the taxation department because it doesn't matter how far you run, it's not going to go away. It's always there. You can't hit it and fight it and beat it up because it's just the messenger. Right? So the threats that we experience these days comes from far away. We don't even see the people we're most afraid of. In the early days we used to, but now we don't. You know, they're government departments, right? Or police departments, or, you know, people we have dealings with at a distance. They protect themselves by the distance and try to manipulate us by our fears. And this has become part of the fabric of society, and this is where pregnant women have a big problem because they're making society. They're making the next participants of society. And they know, they have the experience of going through these fears. They don't want that, to the point where some of them will not even get pregnant to avoid having to put somebody into this sort of society. It's a subconscious response, but it's true, it's real, it's there. So in the process of going through this, it's going to challenge your position in society. You're going to start to see where fear is running people's thinking and how they're controlled by that. Remember I said before, fear is in direct opposition to intelligence. So the more fearful you are, the less energy you have in your intelligence, in your brain. So do you think? No. You react? Yes. You're controllable. Now, women during pregnancy that produce a lot of stress hormones are more likely to be afraid. In fact, the subconscious says fear is a very bad thing, and it will bring up the fears in the mother so that she will become consciously aware of them so she can fix it. Because your subconscious or her subconscious doesn't want the child to be damaged by the fear-related hormones, which it can do very easily. We have a hormone that's produced by a pituitary gland called ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. Yeah, big name. But it's very, very powerful. It's a very strong organic substance. And if you touch it, if you put some of this stuff on your skin, it will burn your skin. It's very, very strong. And we produce it in tiny, tiny little amounts because we don't need much. But if we produce too much, it will actually damage the neurological development of the child. So there's very real reasons, not only why a woman shouldn't get stressed, but also she should be given the opportunity of knowing how to eliminate the fears so that the stress can't come back again. Because while the fear is there, the stress has a place to live. This process becomes really, really important for pregnant women as well as anybody, but in pregnancy, women, you know, the whole genetic process of being pregnant is going to bring up a lot of imbalances for the woman to take care of to protect the baby from getting those same imbalances. And fears are one of the things that her own subconscious will bring to the surface. So in point 4, we get the person to destroy it. And if they can't do it, you just give them options, right? Shoot it with a gun. That doesn't work. Okay, freeze it so it turns to ice, and then hit it with a hammer. Right? Send it off into the sun. One of the things that people think this works, but it really doesn't, is that they send it out into the universe. As if the universe is going to help them somehow. Well, what happens in the universe is called orbits. Everything in the universe orbits. That means it goes around and it comes back again. So they're going to go, it's gone, see? and it's straight back again. It might take them a couple of years, but it'll be back again. But if they throw it into the sun, which is the biggest, strongest furnace that we know of, even your own imagination can't have something go through the sun and come back the same. It's just so hot and so intense that it really will destroy anything. So if that doesn't work, then you think of what does work. Now, we'll get to what to look for, these different sections, which is another part or another advanced section of this whole process, which will help to explain what to do if you can't do any of these steps. All right? So if you can't destroy it, it's okay, there's something we can do about it. Let's say that you can destroy it. 5, how does it feel to no longer have the fear? Now, if you don't have the fear, how does that feel? Oh, that feels really great. Oh, I'm so relieved. So I feel relief. All right? That was the emotion that was suppressed by having the fear. While I had that fear, there's no way that I could feel that relief. It just wasn't going to happen. So, 5, you feel the positive emotion that's released by eliminating the fear. Feel it. Right? Make it real. Actually experience the emotion. Give that feeling a colour. Give it a shape. Where do you feel that positive emotion in your body? Now you're doing this all in your imagination, but that's fine. Holding the front and back of your head keeps the blood coming up to your brain so that it can do all this stuff. 6, you now amplify that positive emotion. You breathe the way that you would breathe if the positive emotion was 100 times stronger. So I've got this positive emotion from destroying the fear. What colour is it? Oh, it's blue. It's a big, nice oval shape. It's got like a little electric surface to it, sort of like it's alive. Whoa, really cool. And it's called relief. Ah, great. Where do I feel that? Yeah, I feel that sort of all through my back. Yeah, it makes my back strong. Oh, yeah. So if that was 100 times stronger, how would I be breathing? That's how I'd be breathing. And get the person to breathe that way. If this is you, you breathe that way. Get the physiological experience of the positive emotion, because that's what we really want. That's what's really driving us. But the fact that we can't get it is what is really limiting us. 6.2, spread the colour through your whole body into every cell and fibre of who you are. So now I can imagine this blue electrical thing spreading through every part of my body, even to the point where it's radiating out from me. I can even make it radiate out over you. So you can feel my relief as well. How about that? You're welcome. Do whatever you need to do to make it real. Everybody has different ways of making things real. The reason we use a destruction for fear is that there's only one reality filter that is stronger than fear, and that's destruction. When something is destroyed, it's gone. It can't come back. That's part of the definition of destruction. So that's why we take people through the destruction process. We have to destroy the form. You can't destroy the energy. The energy is yours, always. But if it gets caught up in a certain package, if you don't get rid of that package, if you don't open it up somehow, you can't get the energy out. Well, this is how we get the energy out of fear, because it's the only thing stronger than fear, destruction. So we destroy the fear, but then you also amplify that positive stuff that was there underneath the fear. Right? Now, you can then put that positive emotion onto a symbol of some sort. You can write it down, you can draw it, you can talk about it in a tape recorder. You can just remember it on occasions. And, remember that when I did that destruction? Oh, that was really great. Oh, it feels fantastic. Now, the tricky bit is that the fear that was behind that may not be the only fear. So when you, or maybe you may be taking somebody else through this process, if you go back to Module 1, where you make a list of all your needs, right? Or if you're working on a specific goal and the needs you want for that, things to watch for, you make sure that the needs are yours and not other people's. This is a big problem. People come in with symptoms, physical symptoms, because they have problems that have nothing to do with them. They're owning other people's problems. And what for? There's absolutely no reason to do that. It's a misperception. We have thought that to prove our relationship to that person, we should help them with their problems, to the point that we make their problems our problems. That can kill you. Don't do that. When you're making your list of needs, make sure that these needs are yours, not other people's. It's amazing the number of people that come to me as clients who are acting on other people's needs. And it's such a waste of energy. It will kill them. It'll just drain them of all of their energy, and then they'll blame the person for it. So that's what to watch for in Module 1. In Module 2, you watch out for also what you're afraid of if you do have the need. See, Module 2 is what are you afraid of if you can't have the need? Right? What if I can't have the money from the bank? Well, what are you afraid of if you can have the money from the bank? What are you afraid of if you can have the need? Because quite often, that's a stronger fear than the one for not having the need. Nelson Mandela said it very well. He said it's not, other people's power that we're afraid of, it's our own power that we're afraid of. If you really exercised all of the power that you have as an individual, you'd be amazed at what you can do. But we don't, because we're afraid of what we can do. We're afraid of rejection from other people. We're afraid of response from society. We're afraid of laws. We're afraid of all sorts of things that are just justifications for keeping the fears. If you don't have fear, you have more intelligence. If you have more intelligence, you'll think of more things. You don't have to ask for them from other people. So, what are you afraid of if you do have your need? Because that can be a whole series of fears all on their own. 3, what to watch out for. If you have trouble doing any of these exercises, you can't find a colour, you can't find a shape, you can't find where to put it, it's only telling you that it's the starting point, it's not the end point. If you can't do any of these, it's because the fear that you've started with is attached to another fear. And I'll tell you now, they don't live by themselves. All right? Fears are a hierarchy. And I'll illustrate this for you. Here we have the need. All right? Whatever the need is, all right, doesn't really matter. All right? What's the need? I'm feeling a bit hungry. I need a peanut butter sandwich. So the need is a peanut butter sandwich. Peanut butter sandwich. So what am I afraid of? If I can't have the peanut butter sandwich. And into my mind pops, a fear of dying from hunger. Okay, dying from hunger. There's the fear. What colour and shape? It's a sort of a splodgy thing like that, and it's sort of a reddy browny colour. Sort of like peanut butter with tomato sauce. So, if I then find out where that is in my body, right, and I take that and I put it outside myself, right? Take it away, I've dissociated from it. Now I can destroy it with an atomic bomb. You know, that doesn't work for me. If I had a big red splodgy thing like peanut butter and tomato sauce, if I use an atomic bomb, I just have tomato sauce and peanuts everywhere. Ugh. So what would destroy that? A vacuum cleaner. Take the bag and put that in the furnace. Gone. That's better. That's much better. Feel that? It's much better. Yeah. All right. So now the positive feeling is much better, and it's blue, and I do all sorts of nice things with it. That's the theory. This is what happens in practice. I find the need, I find the fear. Let's say I can't find a colour. I just can't find a colour. It's not transparent, it's not see-through, it's not any colour, but I know it's there, I just can't find a colour. And it seems to stop the process. Anything that seems to stop the process, you say, what do I need to find a colour? What do I need to find the shape? What do I need to find the fear? What do I need to destroy the fear? What do I need to find the positive feelings? What if down here, this is a negative feeling? You don't want to amplify a negative feeling. You want to amplify positive feelings. But if after destroying the fear, you feel really depressed, well, what do I need not to feel really depressed? So you can always apply this process to any part that seems not to follow the procedure. All right? It's very, very cool because it doesn't matter where you get to in the process, you can always go back to, well then what do I need? All right? If I can't find this colour, well what do I need to find the colour? If I can't destroy the fear, well what do I need to be able to destroy the fear? You can always go back to the same process and follow it again. Now you're doing like a new tree of the process. So this is the first need, but you hit a block. All right, so we had the first need here, and at the colour point, everything failed, didn't work. So then we applied the new need process to the colour. What do I need to be able to find a colour? Oh, I need some help. What am I afraid of if I can't find a help? That I'll have to do it all on my own. Oh, a new fear is coming up. See, the first fear was fear of dying from hunger. But now that's led me to a fear of having to do it all on my own. So that fear and this fear were connected somehow. Now, in the process of going through here, I might not be able to destroy the fear. Oh gosh, I can't destroy the fear. What do I do? Ask myself the same question. What do I need to be able to destroy the fear? And I've got another line to follow. That's the third fear. So you can continue like this, and I have done this for hours. Going through, until I can get through a whole process and destroy the fear and have a positive emotion and be able to experience it. Because it's at that point, all of the tree above falls down. There's nothing for the others to attach to. It all falls down. And you have so much more energy, it's almost not fair that you can have so much energy and other people don't have it. They do have it, but they're using it to maintain their fears. Right? So, what to look for in these different modules is just related to the module itself and how you may be able to find the next fear. Right? So you always ask yourself, what do I need, what do I need, what do I need?